happening, Soldier? You all right?
Yes, sir. What's up? What's up, good people? How you feeling, man? Just trying to get things together because had to change the network from Verizon to something that was a little stronger for this rural area that I live in. You know, we joke about it. We call it the country because that's what it is.
Yeah, it's
So,
west of Wakanda, brother.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely had to get that together because just using the technology is a must. So, uh,
Absolutely.
welcome, welcome, welcome. Appreciate you returning so we can do part two of this segment from last week, just highlighting how a person can go from being incarcerated to helping not only impact but change the trajectory of diversion. So I'd like to welcome the audience. This is the turnaround table where real voices meet, real stories meet real people. Um, it could not be happening without the collaboration with the Old Mill Foundation slash CPAC and the other collaborators that we have, DJS, DHS, and law partners. As I mentioned, we returning for part two with Mr. Alexander Campbell, a man that has accomplished a lot in the time that he's returned back to society. And you know, just before I signed on, somebody had said they was in the store, and there was two cash registers having a conversation about whether or not it was okay to communicate with somebody that was previously incarcerated. And of course, the one that was the one that was advocating for him felt strongly about it, and then the other one felt that they was kind of, you know, wasting their time. They shouldn't have been interacting with somebody that was incarcerated. And you know, we always talk about our past, how it doesn't dictate our future. We also talk about how some people shouldn't get a second chance. And before I proceed on, I would be I would not be doing my job as a host if I didn't speak on the other collaboration that we have. And in fact, that's where Gene is tonight. Safer Streets Together. It's program that the governor of Maryland put together, and we are definitely a part of that and appreciate the fact that they're allowing us to operate up under their banner. So we focusing on impact transformation and building real pathways for our audience and the communities we serve. What makes tonight conversation special is that it's not just talk. It's about real systems, real partnerships, real people doing the work. And we proud to be participants with the organizations um, in Prince George's County because, you know, we strive to make a difference. These partnerships allow us to reach individuals who are often overlooked, justice is impacted, youth, returning citizens, and um, you know, we not therapists, but we do have the opportunity to interact with uh, individuals that's dealing with traumas. You and I both know that from a firsthand experience. So after you introduce yourself to the audience, which they should know you because you're gonna be a staple, you know, I enjoy talking to you when we're not on the podcast. So to have you back for 2 weeks in a row and even aid me in, you know, getting some of the youngest to come on, man. You know, I just appreciate you, and I'm always let you know that I appreciate you. But you can introduce yourself to the audience, man, and tell them who you are and what you do.
Likewise, brother, I always appreciate you because one thing about it, you hold the bar, and you've been a hell of a dude in regards to being my accountability partner, along with other things. You always been a brother, and brother first, and that's rarity in a lot of circles. So I'm blessed to even know you. Okay, my name is Alexander Campbell. Some new stuff, good stuff happening. I just been hired, and we'll start Monday with the state's attorney's office. And for a brother that is a returning citizen, that's major. And we're not doing floors, but we having an impact in the truancy space. And so, her thing is accountability, and accountability leads to redemption, and redemption leads to service. And so I'm looking at the fact that that's a blessing to be able to prove that we are worthy of doing some great things, especially for the youth, especially in this time and period in which we now live in, because there's some serious things. And, me and you have spoken on many times before how our generation dropped the ball because we're these children's grandparents. And being these children's grandparents, a lot of us failed as parents to our children. And so now, because they were left out there, because while we were doing time, it was the streets raising them, while we wanted to be like Scarface and all these other things that these babies, these children are scrambling. So I appreciate what you do with them, being able to speak with them, to bring them on the podcast and giving them the opportunities that you given them. That a lot of people just don't know, man. This work is real.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. So, Alexander, you went from incarceration to working inside the state's attorney office, helping create diversion pathways for justice impacted young men, giving them opportunities that many of us never had when we was younger. And that's what the turnaround table is all about. We're not glorifying our mistakes, but we showing what accountability, mentorship, and opportunities can produce. You've seen both sides of the system, where young men are entering incarceration and now decide where programs are being built to keep them out. But my question to you is, what do diversion pathways actually look like for a young man who might otherwise be headed for prison?
It depends from whose program that you're dealing with, because truth be told, I think the collaboration between those who are returning citizens and those who are not, in the professional space, dealing with therapists, social workers, and things like that, I think that's the best diversion, or have the opportunity to creating the diversional programs that'll work. Returning citizens by themselves can be a challenge, because a lot of us, we work from a scared street, and these youngins aren't scared. These youngins got guns or have access to guns. Pretty much they understand what we understand. And we had it confused, where fear represents respect and respect represents fear. And then we have the academics. They have all the studies, but they don't have the voice that can reach a lot of these youngsters, even though their pathways are good too. And so in these diversion programs like Back on Track, I'm blessed to work with some professionals that listen. The ASA that I work under, and some of the other people in the staff, we work as a cohesive unit. I work with them, the young men and the young ladies, based on the fact of my experience. And they look at me kind of like a father figure or uncle figure, because I lived that life. And I'm working hard, and they see the genuineness in regards to trying to working to keep them out of the space as far as that. So in regards to the diversion programs, I think It depends really on the type of partnerships that you develop that'll be successful. Um, that's going to count, because you need both sides of that coin. Because without both sides of that coin, there's going to be limits.
I agree with you, Champ. I agree with you. You and I have been doing this. We've been showing up pro bono, but it's what we would do if a joker was wealthy, is what we would do, because we don't want to see young people travel the same road that we did, pretty much because you don't have to. And I don't care on what level of education you have attained or not, there's still the opportunity to turn things around if you want to. That's just my firm belief. Are there some rare cases that an individual can't? I'm sure it is. But when you look around and see things that people have accomplished with mental disabilities, physical disabilities, they just believed in themselves. They had somebody to push them and guide them. And so they was able to make a difference regardless of the circumstances. So I just believe that if you want it bad enough, you'll figure out a way. You know what I'm saying? You'll find somebody to put around you that's going to make it happen. Somebody that's going to believe in you and push you to believe in yourself. Alexander, what are some of the biggest mistakes we make as a society when responding to justice impacted youth?
Communication. Our communication skills are horrible in a lot of sense. I was with the young men at that high school the other day, and I was telling you how we have to come off of that tough guy thing. A lot of people that are not justice involved, we come in, we mean well, but we come in offensive. We come in there threatening. And it is funny because I'm like, man, I'm the one that did 26 years. I'm the one that did the life sentence. I'm the one that, did some wild stuff. But I don't come at these youngins like that, because I can see already how much we are alike. When we were coming up, and some of them old heads came at us, we just looked at them. You know what I mean? We're not scared of you. You got me mixed up. I'm out here too. I'll get you before you get me. Same mindset that they have. So you have to know how to speak to these youngsters, and that communication skill is that's what's hurting us the most. You're going to have to talk to them in a way that'll bring them in so they can trust you. They don't have trust, and they have all the reason in the world not to trust. I mean, we as Black men, we have been enemies to each other for so long. You know what I mean? Look at how many debates that we get into, whether it's returning citizens or not, in regards to how we're going to help each other with this community.
Right.
You know what I mean? We got brothers that are upset because you went to prison. Not upset because you went, but because you have grit and you have a story and you fit a certain way, where, we're looking at them like, bro, you were so blessed not to even travel down that road. We are happy that you made the right decision.
Right.
We're glad that you never been in prison. So, those are the challenges. That communication piece is real important.
You mentioned the ASA, and we don't have to call out her name because I know exactly who you're talking about. And it's ironic that you have given me the opportunity to be in those spaces and see these people behind the scenes rather than just seeing them in the courts. But even when you see them in the courts, I'm saying, you could see the passion. You could see that these people do want to give some of the individuals a second opportunity to change the trajectory. And it starts with the program like the Back on Track program. And we know that it didn't start in Prince George's County, but the mere fact that we do have it here is giving guys an opportunity. And so for people like the CEO of the Old Mill Foundation, Mr. Lee, who's been working with young kids for some 20 plus years and shared stories with myself and Gene about how some of these kids have become very productive in society. You know, they've got jobs that they may not have otherwise been able to obtain without the leadership of his organization. So my question to you is, what roles does mentorship play in helping these young people redirect their lives?
You know, that's a good question. Because of the experience and because they see the genuineness in us, they're more apt to listen. Everybody doesn't, but they're more apt to listen because we're not coming at them to lord over them or to say, you know, this is what you need to do. When we use that tone, it's because we know that they're on the line and they know that they're on the line. But when we give them suggestions and say, brother, you might not want to do this because you need to think that through, because did you think about this, and this as a suggestion? Or we might say, I might do it this way because I'm worried about this. And because you took that type of time and energy as a mentor, like Mr. Lee and like some of the other people that have done that, you'll see the success in these young men and these young women because they know you genuinely care about their future. You know what I mean? So
Right.
mentorship is key. But I don't think it's really, I don't know what it's called, but I don't think you can look at it as mentorship because we play so many roles. 1 minute you coach, one minute you're a father, 1 minute you're a mentor, 1 minute you know you're the disciplinarian, 1 minute we play so many roles with these individuals that, you know, the love is there. You know, when they're successful, they want to celebrate with you. You know, one of my you know, I had some major wins. The brother that's getting ready to go to Columbia University with the program, and you know Giovanni, the brother that you done had on your program.
Yes, sir.
You know, tonight or tomorrow, he's being interviewed by the AP class on mental health, poverty, and incarceration.
Okay.
And then we going into the high school tomorrow, so he can do the program with the Spanish students.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
so to be able to take this brother while he's in that program to excel, you know, he sees his future in a whole different way. He sees his purpose in life. So am I a mentor or are you his mentor? You know what I mean? Because we both work with him.
Right.
What role is that? You know, we play so many things, and I think that's what you have to do nowadays in order to be successful with these young people. You have to play so many different roles.
I agree. I'm gonna tell you, when I first got into this space, my daughter, I think my daughter was like in her last year of high school before she was entering college. And I had so many young kids attaching themselves to me that my daughter kind of felt slighted. Now I'm a father of four. One of them I was around since he was 6 years old, but he was my current wife son. So I consider him as my child. And what I would say is that you do play a lot of different roles in their lives, particularly the ones that are not coming home with you, but they gravitate towards you in the way that you become the father or the uncle, and they need to hear certain things from you because they're not hearing it from somebody else, a family member. So I know for a fact that I would interact with some of the family members, and I can attest, I can tell the audience that, you know, you do too. But give us some insight as to your interactions with not just the young men, but their family members, because we've had those conversations, and the mothers look forward to you interacting with their young men.
Man, that's a blessing, man. It's you know, there's a book, and that book was pivotal to me while I was in prison. It was part of, it's funny, it was part of the Oprah Book Club. It's a book called A Lesson Before Dying by Ernest Gaines. And
that's one you forgot to tell me about.
Oh, I apologize, bro. That is like my favorite fiction book.
Okay.
And you're playing the same role that I'm playing in that book. They even have a movie out dealing with Michael Pfeiffer. He's in the book. I mean, he's in the movie. So it's called A Lesson Before Dying. So I suggest the audience look at that. And I suggest that especially those brothers that are returning citizens and not returning citizens that are in this space, really read and look at this book or listen to it, one or the other. And you know, when a mother, and this is the reason why I say that, when a mother comes to me and she sees that I'm in a court, and she sees the judge, the ASA, and everybody call me Mr. A or Mr. Alexander, you know what I mean? And they hear about what I do. Some of those mothers come up to me and say, "Can you help my son become a man?"
Wow.
That's a hell of a request.
Ain't no question.
And, you know, I've learned to say, yes, ma'am, I'm going to work with him as best as I know how to help him come up, because I can see that there's greatness there, because he could have easily said, I don't want to do this program. And he could have carried the weight of that possibility of going to jail for whatever many years that he has, because he's looking at that gun case with a drug case, and he might have a carjacking joint to go with it, you know, and throw away the opportunity for the Back on Track program. And for those who don't know what the Back on Track program is, it's a program that was created in California by the former Vice President Kamala Harris. And PG County has a spin on it in regards to, it's not just dealing with drug case, but it's also dealing with first-time offenders dealing with guns. And these young men that are between 18 and 26, even though we got some that are older. And, you know, so it's a powerful thing. So when these ladies come to me, or I meet their fathers, and, you know, it's rare that we see the fathers come to court. I shake their hands and tell them I'm proud of them. I tell their mothers I'm going to do the best I can with their son. And when their sons say, man, Mr. A is like an uncle to me, he's like a father to me, he's like this, or that's my mentor, that's my dude, you know, they understand. Because I may have just saved their family, because some of these mothers have already lost sons either to prison or seen their older sons get killed in the streets. And so that's their babies, you know. So interacting with their family, interacting with their girlfriends. Man, I told you I went to one of my youngins, his girlfriend's godmother died.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the funeral to support her as well as him.
Right. Right. I remember you telling me that.
Way, yeah. You know,
I also you know, I think about the day that we was in the court, and the young Latino kid mother and girlfriend was there to support him. So, you know, these things translate over into other people. It doesn't just affect the individual that's a defendant in the courtroom. And because I've been in the course with you, I know exactly what you're saying. Like I've heard the people come up to you and question whether or not you would aid or assist in helping the young man. And, you know, audience, we say young men because that's particularly who we've been working with in this space. We do know young women also need these assistances, but me and Alexander feel that it's better off for women to step in that place, because it's a thin line between trying to help a young lady and then having accusations thrown at you. So we just try to stay clear of situations like that. In doing so, Alexander, with these young men, And we know that most times the father is absent. But of course, we witness that a lot. And for you to acknowledge the dad that come, that's big, because they need to hear that. I know that in my children's lives, I have been absent. You know, for the bulk of my first child life, I was absent due to my incarceration and due to the failed relationship with her mother. And there are times when I have to apologize more than once about that. Although I didn't play 1,000% of the reason as to why that happened, I played a majority of it. And I felt like, you know, I needed to acknowledge that and give her the understanding as to my relationship with her, my love for her, and how I want to see things turn out for her. Now, you don't have any children, but you take on the role that many dads run away from, or many fathers run away from. So do you have to have those conversations with them young men about their father not being in their lives?
Absolutely. It's the same, like, you know, because I got a bonus child, as you already know.
Correct.
And I've been rocking with her since she was like 14 or 15. And, you know, when you prove yourself, see, a lot of us, we want to force that father thing. You don't have to do that. In fact, that's foolish. Be a friend first. Let them know you and who you are. Let them get comfortable around you, and let them and allow yourself to show that you will protect them when it's time. That's, man, I done came up on my daughter's job, you know, to deal with issues. So she knows. She done seen me, you know, be serious about that. That's my girl. That's my baby there. And so in dealing with these young men, it's the same way. You know, I'm not going to let nobody bully them, because we dealt with that too. You know what I mean? When they was coming to a certain workplace, and I had to check dudes on that, because some of the dudes that are returning citizens thought that they was trying to do some scared straight. And I'm like, Slim, we don't do scared straight here. You know, that's something we ain't doing. You're going to respect these young men, because I treat them like men. And that's the only way we know how to treat them, because, you know, they dealing with adult situations when they 8, 9, and 10 years old. You know, they just don't understand. And that's why they're in the condition that they're in, because we had to deal with adult situations when we were 7, 8, 9, and 10 years old. We had to figure that joint out, you know. So when we're looking at those things, bro, it's an honor and a privilege, because we're doing what the ancients said do. It's in our history, you know. We're not here to just suck up the air. We're here to be a blessing to others and make our lives count. Because the worst thing in the world is, and me and you spoke about this numerous of times, I don't want to die a useless life. You know what I mean? Not participating or giving a child an opportunity to say, you know what, somebody really cared enough about me to help me change my life. You know, when we look at that movie, that Denzel flick. I can't even think about that. When he was in the Navy playing the psychologist, I can't think about that movie. Antoine,
you know, you got me on that one.
Antoine Fisher.
Okay, yeah, right. Because you had told me to watch it, and when I got finished watching it, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we watch the movies and totally miss the message behind the movie. But you know, one thing you touched on when you was talking about your daughter, you know, you came into a daughter by way of marriage, and y'all had that respect and love for one another. So it's just like you, her biological father, because the biological father is on his own journey, on his own path. Right. And so in this space, you know, we don't have a lot of women as much as we do men that want to step out in the field and aid these young women. So, like I said, it's a real thin line we gotta play. But they also need the understanding of what it feels like to get that love or that nurturing or that guidance from a man, because we know that a lot of times, often, they get into relationships with men based on the lack of what they got when they was coming up. So they chase the wrong individuals and wind up with dudes that doesn't mean them any a benefit. Have you had the need to have a conversation like that with your daughter?
With her and with a few others, because I'm like that with her friends. Because some of her friends don't have that type of father figure, and I've run across, like, even with the high school that I'm dealing with, and some of those students, because when I speak at those schools, it's mostly young ladies that'll come talk to me, and ask me questions about, they'll say their dad is locked up or their father isn't in their life. What advice would I give them? And, it's a blessing to be that trusted. You know what I mean? And I give it to them, and I'm fair. You know what I mean? I suggest certain things, but I'm always cautious, not in a negative sense, but I know what they look for, because it's a crime when brothers leave their daughters.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's really a crime, especially when it's voluntarily.
Right.
I get the prison thing, that could be volunteered too, and that's most unfortunate. But them dudes that just lead their daughters to the street, that's some cold-blooded shit. I mean, excuse my language, but that is. Um, because when I see brothers in the store, my wife will point it out to me and say stuff like, I love seeing a dude with his daughter. And so I have made it, even when I see brothers with their sons, I said, bro, that's a good look, man. Continue the good work. I know that a lot of times you ain't acknowledged, but I want to acknowledge you as a brother to a brother. I'm proud of you, brother, and how you doing what you're doing right there as a father. Man, when we congratulate other black men for doing those things like that, bro, you should see, and man, some of them look like they want to cry.
Yeah.
You know what I
Man,
mean?
listen.
Woo.
I'm listening to you talk right now, and my circumstances in terms of what has transpired in my life over the last 20 plus months. I've been
Yeah.
around my kids all their lives, and for reasons out of their hands, that came to an end.
Right.
And I think about them all the time, but I also have to factor in that they're young adults now. So it's not like they need me to hold their hands. My youngest being 25 right now, and is carving out her own niche in life. So I have to let them grow to who they want to become and do the things that they feel like they need to do, and just step back and fall in where I'm needed. I don't have to be overbearing, but I will say that, yeah, I miss my kids because I've been living with them. Should they have been out on their own? Possibly. But in this day and time, you try to give them the opportunity to grow as much as possible while they still living in your homes.
Yeah, but see, you've been a hell of a dude, though, bro, because I'm going to tell you, brothers that got locked up, a lot of them don't change. They come back home and they still the same joker. They didn't mature, even over the last few years, and as our bond grow, I watched, man, you grow with them, your tone, and not that your tone was nasty or nothing, but your tone is different. How you've grown and you shared more information that you just received, your encouragement, the fact that how you were instrumental in possibly saving your granddaughter's whole trajectory. You know what I mean? That was, man, that was awesome because you seen her going down the wrong road. And when you stepped in, man, and it was potent and powerful. So when I see those things, bro, you know what I mean? And I know the story and how you share and do this and do that. And I said, man, I like how he did that. And I added that to my repertoire in dealing with young women. You see what I mean? So when I look at those things and brothers willing to share with other brothers those sciences, man, we could win. The whole thing is, are we willing to grow? Are we willing to share and put aside, you know, that we think we know everything, to be brothers first so we can help these other children? Because in reality, you know, when you ask a brother that is responsible, that is married and have children, how many other children are looking up to him as a father figure? You know what I mean? How many other children look at you as a father figure, a grandfather figure? And I don't know how many children or these young people look at me as such. That's impact. And dudes cannot take that lightly, because a lot of us know, because we have those, we have extended family in the community. You know, we know, okay, she's like my mom. She's like my other mother. She's like my other mother. But rare do we ever say, hey, yo, Slim is like pops to me. I never said that. So now I'm like that. You know what I mean? Like, man, you know, come on, you good? Come on over here and let us talk.
The times have changed, bro. And I tell people that I talk to, you know, when it comes to me, it depends on who's telling the story. You know, I done took a lot of L's in life. I've done a lot of things that I wish I could take back, you know, pertaining to my family. But what I didn't want to be, Alexander, is the type of person that came out in society trying to help other children, and deep down inside, I knew that's who I really was. So, you know, I had to take a long look at myself in the mirror and say to myself, like, you know what? If I lose everything that I work for to gain who I really want to be, then it's worth it. It's worth it. Because the last thing I want to do is be playing games with other people's lives, because I did that enough when I was younger. And when I think about the fact that, you know, again, it's because of Mr. Phil Lee that we have the opportunity to do this podcast and collaborate with the other organizations in PG County. You know, a person like him that's been in this space for 20 plus years, I can't even begin to count the number of kids who probably consider him as a grandfather or a father or a mentor, you know, because a person just like in this day and time, you know, you go in your neighborhood, we don't really know each other like we used to. You know, back in the day, everybody in the neighborhood and the communities knew one another, and it was easy to look out for somebody because you knew who they belonged to. But today it's just not like that. So the work and the space that we in, we talk about it. You know, we really have to go out there and be extra. Like the stuff you do is extra. The going to the court since last April, we talked about that with no check. That's extra. Look at how many people in the same organization that you was working for didn't want to do that. I was coming down from Baltimore. I ain't get paid a dime in money, but in education and being able to walk in the course and being acknowledged as now a good guy, and the bailiffs speaking to me like, you know, I'm okay. Man, that felt real good. So I can't complain about not getting paid money, because on the flip side of it, I got exactly what I needed. I got acceptance from the law, people who are in the law. I got acceptance. I wasn't looked at the individual who might look like a suspect. And man, that was well worth the drive when I came down from Baltimore to meet you in the course every week.
But you know, go ahead. Right quick. a person that doesn't understand what you're actually saying to them, and this is heavy. Mr. Lee vetted you so hard in order you to trust you to do this thing and represent his organization. And, I was vetted by the state's attorney's office and everything else. They know everything about me, my case, my prison record, juvenile, everything. And the deepest part about that is when anybody looks up what your business is about and what I'm getting ready to grow mine into, there's not a space that I can't go into because you was vetted very hard and by the best people to vet you. When people think of your name, they can say, I can trust him. Because not only was he vetted by the courts, the legal system, they know and they vouch for him. So when he puts a program in the high schools, when he puts a program in the middle schools, when he puts a program in the jail, in the prison for the upliftment of the people that are around him and that are dealing with him, that are at risk, all that voluntary work has paid off into business.
Absolutely.
And the fact that you're going to always eat and you can go anywhere you want to because those letters, they can call those people and them people will say, I know him. That's a hell of a man. You can trust him. When you're able to speak to judges, when you're able to speak to certain people like that, and they say, hey, look, this young man has a program that he can put because he was working with us right here and we watched the change in these young people's lives. And they really care because we know as many times as we've been in the court, there might not have been nobody else but us.
Right.
And that could have been mental health services, peer support services, any other services. It was just you and I in that thing doing what we was doing in the adult recovery court, in the mental health court, in the reentry court, in the back on track court. Bro, it was just you and I doing
Absolutely.
this. So, so when I think of that, I look at the vetting process and how many brothers can say they've been vetted as such, whereas people that they thought that they would never be able to get vetted by other than negative are vetted for to be able to do good and still help those that they say, hey, look, can you help so-and-so? Can you help the juveniles? Because we love what you do. And
right.
we think that you can be very effective because a lot of these other programs aren't. So please help us. And here's, do you have a business so we can make sure that you are taken care of so you can go ahead and do that? Brother, that's priceless.
Ain't no question. And we still got work to do personally and professionally. But I know you committed and I'm committed because we talk every day.
Absolutely.
So, we coming down to like the last 17 minutes. So I'm just going to throw some questions out there for you. And okay. One of them is, do you think there's anything we can do to make a change in our communities and neighborhoods? And if so, can we get there before it's too late?
We can make a lot of change. We'll need help. And we need buy-in, not competition. Buy-in. In going into certain communities, some of the people that are established there that are not getting funding, they have a problem. It's like we already tell you, bro, we know weed is legal, but how you gonna come to the meeting smelling like you just got rolled out? That's crazy.
Right.
You dealing with professionals. These people don't smoke weed. These people are lawyers. These people are this. These people are that. They business people. They willing to give you $50,000 to $100,000 to run your program, but you coming in there smelling like you just got rolled up, eyes blazing red, talking about what's up, and you mad because we're coming in there with a professional mindset, and we don't mind working with you. But how can we work with you when you're not even willing to work with yourself? You're not going to mess my name up because you can't work with yourself and understand that in these rooms and in these spaces, you have to be professional at all times. You don't have to come in there with a suit, but you have to come in there casual and business dressed. I'm not a quarter zip guy, but I'll go in there with a quarter zip on. I might have some Timbs on my feet, but they're not going to be the Butters, but they're going to look like something else. You know what I mean? You got to come in there business. You're going to have to be able to read, write, and, conversate. So,
Brother Nadir, can I be heard?
Yeah.
And I know he's only going to give me 2 minutes before he turns my mic back off. Listen, I'm always listening in, even when I'm distracted or busy doing other things. But I wanted to take a couple of minutes to say to both of you, and excuse me for not having my camera on. I'm not camera ready. It's usually a no-no for me, but I wouldn't want to scare all your audience right now.
We appreciate that.
I want to say to both of you that the work you do is not only important, but it's valuable. And I do, Brother Alexander, talk to Nadir often, probably more than I want to. But for the both of you, I want you to know I feel honored because I have been in this business 20 plus years, and I've always been concerned about who was going to come after me. And when I first met Nadir, he will tell you I was threatening to do something called retirement for the last time. I had enough. There's a lot of sorrow and a lot of sadness in this work that you all have chosen to do. I hear you talk about those that you have saved or salvaged, but the audience needs to know about those that we try very hard to get a hold of and we lose them anyway. Sometimes, and I used to have to tell my staff, it's not about the one you save, it's about the one you lost. You got to try to figure out, why did we lose him? And I've had people say, well, you can't save them all. But that's not what I want to hear. Because it's somebody's son, somebody's daughter, somebody, you understand? So I want to say to both of you, you got to keep doing what you're doing. Nadir, I've heard you mention pro bono, and I'm going to pass that on to our CEO that you like working pro bono. I'll make sure she understands that. But
that would be a lie.
I understand that in life, and I'm a little bit older. Well, I think Alexander may be older than I am.
Oh man.
Sometimes the payment we receive is not payment that you can take to the bank and deposit. It's a payment that you feel where nobody else can feel it, and that's in your body, your heart, and your soul. I will tell you all, and I'm sure you've been there, but there's nothing greater to look at an individual, and Nadir referenced some earlier, to see an individual that came to you in handcuffs, who everybody has simply gave up on. But somehow, and I emphasize the somehow that individual made it to you. And 17 years later, they show up at your door with their wife and their 3 children. And they say, thank you. You can't put no dollar sign, no dollar amount on that. You just cannot do it. Keep doing what you're doing. I would say to the audience, You all need to support these brothers wherever you see them, whenever you hear them, because that's what they need to continue their efforts. They need to know that they're supported. Too often in this business, we do feel like we're out here all by ourselves. And people move on as in life goes on. But for some of these young people, that's not true. For some of them, tomorrow is questionable. No child, no young person should view the next day as questionable. Something wrong with that. So I said 2 minutes, Nadir, I'm not going to take up any more of your time. You're doing a great job. Alexander, I hope we have you here every week, because people, they get used to hearing you. So yeah, I'm giving you one more thing to do, but that's what it's all about, that one more thing. Because that's maybe one more thing that somebody else was doing that will make the difference.
Yes, sir.
So again, I want to compliment and commend both of you. Keep doing what you're doing. I will support you in any way that I possibly can. I will. Just do what you need to do, as the intruder said, and Nadia's too young to know about the intruders. We all got to do something to save these children. We do. Nadia, thanks for the 2 minutes. Alexander, it's always good seeing you, my brother. Keep up the good work and know that I'm here if you ever need me.
Appreciate you, sir.
I'm out.
I appreciate you, Chief.
You know,
Hey, Alexander, that's how you get things accomplished when you a silent CEO / comedian, because you see he threw in that Alexander might be older than me, knowing that right now he get up out of his chair, dust gonna fall off his shoulders.
Oh man, that's funny. Oh man.
But he definitely made a valid point about that individual showing up later on in life with his family, you know what I'm saying, and thanking them for putting in that work. And I think that it's important that those be some of the outcomes, or many of the outcomes, more often than not, when we're interacting with these youth, because they're our future.
Absolutely.
If you look at the leadership, everybody's like 70, almost 80, don't want to retire because they don't have anything to do. But if we can catch these youngsters at the right time, and it's probably never quote unquote right time, but just to groom them, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Just to give them what they need, give them that leadership, give them that understanding about life, and show them that you don't have to work doing things that you don't want to do just to pay bills. You can actually plan for your career. You can plan for your children's careers and livelihoods, and just turn out fruitful families, man, because I know for a fact some of the things that I experienced when I grew up, or what I saw in my household, matriculated into my own household. And it wasn't always the best outcome. If I ever had the opportunity to have my wife, soon to be ex, the story that she would tell would be quite differently from who people see me as in society. And I never was physical, but just that whole mental withdrawing, because I didn't have what I would have needed to be as a role model to bring me up. You kind of take on your own identity and you form your own opinions about life, or you like, I don't want to be like this person and I don't want to be like that person. And all the time you wind up being exactly like who you don't want to be, just because you're trying to do it all on your own. So it's imperative that we stay in this space. And as he said, the benefits will come later on, man. And I'm always honored to be in your company. I'm always honored to have a healthy conversation with you every day, several times a day, because you superseded a lot of individuals that used to be in my space. Because, the one thing I don't like is to call somebody and ain't nothing going on, or
Oh
it's
man.
the same stuff going on, or somebody talking about they going to hang out. Like, I just want to know, who life are you impacting other than your own? And when I talk to you, I don't have to ask you that question because I already know. When I talk to Chief, well, he's semi in retirement, but let's say if I'd have talked to him 2-3 years or 15 years ago, I would have known. You know what I'm saying? This man was seeing things from the both sides of the fence. Gene, ever since I met Gene, he's always been about impacting somebody. Like, even if it cost a little bit of his time, he was there. So these are the type of situations that we always have to make time for, man. And we're down to our last 5 minutes, so I'm gonna give you a few minutes to speak your piece before we close out, man. I appreciate you.
Likewise, Chief said, the ones that we lost on this battlefield. I remember going into the district court because they were working on putting a diversion program together, and the judge gave this young man an opportunity to try again. And this dude was, he was borderline, man, disrespectful, everything else. But the judge said, no, I'm going to give you this opportunity because your life means something. And I was rocking with the dude that was his mentor. His mentor took him out to eat. His mentor took him to get a job, everything. 2 weeks after that brother, the judge gave that brother an opportunity, Slim was killed.
Wow.
And when he was killed, this the stuff that Chief talk about, because what does it do to the psyche?
Right.
This was 4 years ago. That brother that was his mentor never came back to do anything else.
Wow.
Never came back to do this again.
He took that real hard.
He took that as a serious L and said, Alexander, I can't do this. That's too much. That's too much. And I was like, wow. But I understood, you know what I mean? Because we was tag teaming, and, I was talking to the dude because Slim, that was his mentor, was a returning citizen too. And he said, man, that was just too much. I can't handle that. And he has not helped returning citizens, at-risk youth, none of that, because it just messed him up that bad. So in our space, like Chief said, how thick is your skin? Can you overcome? Because you're going to be dealing with tragedies. You're going to deal with dudes that are going to go back to jail and go back to prison. Dudes that are going to quit the programs that can save their life. I just watched a dude quit the program yesterday, matter of fact, when we went to court. I watched two give up the program, getting this stuff expunged. So that gun charge he's looking at now, at least 5 years when he goes back to the former judge.
Wow.
And so he's 20. So he's looking at that felony for the rest of his life. So if he lives to 60, 65, 70 years old, that gun charge might mess him up from doing a whole lot of things that he thought he could do. So, when we talk about what appears to be a failing, it's not a failing. It's a trial to overcome. And in this space, it's not that you lose them. It's the choices that they made. And you just got to accept what it is and keep moving and prayerfully learn something from it. So if you see it in the next person, you can help them overcome too. So I look.
Well, that's what's up, man. Like I said, I appreciate you. And if anybody listening, live in our area, you work for an organization, you work for the government, I want you all to support my man Alexander in his work. I want you to support the Turnaround Table. We're going to come on every Thursday, and we're going to bring you real stories. We're going to bring you real people. And what I want y'all to understand is transformation is possible when the right partnerships, mentorships, and opportunities come together. Lives can change. The work happening between the community leaders, state agencies, and organizations like Old Mill Foundation, CPAC, 3B Pathways shows that Maryland is beginning to rethink how we respond to justice impacted individuals. And the conversation like these are part of the shift, because sometimes the most powerful voice for change is someone who once sat on the other side of the table. And tonight, that's exactly what we're hearing. So we always want you to pull up a seat and sit around at the table with us, join us, because we talking about making a change. We're talking about changing the pathway and the trajectory for the Justice Impact youth, trauma-informed individuals, returning citizens, strengthen the families. You know, we just want y'all to hear what we got to say. Please take us serious, because we get up, and I know for a fact, man, Alexander get up every day to make a difference in somebody's lives, even if we gotta put ourselves second. And with that being said, we see y'all next Thursday. We appreciate y'all time. Y'all keep showing up for us. We're gonna keep showing up for y'all. We out.